Welcome, everyone, to this Friday's edition of the Signals from Mars live stream, brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast. I hope everyone is doing great. We welcome back the good doctor, Mr. Brad Dahl. How are you, sir?
Yeah, the doctor's in. I'm doing really well. I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it. And hello to everybody. God, I gotta get this here. Hello to everybody in the chat room so far. Jeremy, it's good to see you. I look forward to meeting all you guys someday. That would be way cool.
That would be awesome. Yeah, Dr. Rock.
Yeah,
I kept thinking about the Motorhead song today.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's kind of funny because when because actually, a doctor of clinical pharmacy, whatever that is. And and I'm an assistant professor at the College of Pharmacy. So the students call me, "Oh, Dr. Dahl." I'm like, no, don't call me Dr. Dahl. That's kind of just silly. And this guy, I once these guys and the drummer started calling me Dr. Brad, and I go, you know what? I'm okay with that. That's a little less pretentious, It's like Dr. Brad, that's pretty good. My favorite of all time, though, and I might have told this here, is I was teaching a class. It was a high school class, and I walked in, and one of the guys this is back when I had pretty long hair, and he says, "Oh, it's the Poison dude," and I go, "Yeah, that I like being the Poison dude." I've actually been accused of having been in the band Poison too. I was doing a TV interview and the guy somehow asked me, because I guess he'd heard something about me being involved with Poison. He says, "I heard you were in the band Poison," and I was on the air, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course I was." And then my brother Bobby, he took over, after I left. So because his last name's Dahl, right, but he spells it wrong. Yeah,
right. That's like in the End Machine. They just released a new album. And Mick Brown's brother took over, Steve Brown. So it's a similar deal. So they just switched the Dahl brothers on bass.
Yeah, there you go. That's I don't know, man. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Hey, I have a question for you, Victor, to get things going here. Which, by the way, the intro music sounded kind of wonky on my end. Was it for everybody else out there, or was it just me?
Yeah, that's one of those things I've been saying that sounds kind of crappy now that they've updated their system. The funny thing is when I download the file to upload it to YouTube, it sounds fine. But when it plays live, it sounds like I'm listening to it underwater.
Well, it's more important that it sounds good on YouTube. So that's a good thing. Oh, it's good for Jeremy. Well, if it's good for Jeremy, then
yep. Well, if it's good for Jeremy, it's good for me. Damn it.
Okay. So my question is about that music. Where did that music come from? What is that? Or have you already talked to time and I missed it?
That is me.
Whoa.
That is that is with all the stuff that started going down with YouTube and everything. And actually, it's funny. Last week was the first time that I got a copyright strike when uploading a video, because I tried to play a joke on my guest last week, on Chris Vaglio. We were playing different snippets of new music that had come out, and the new Greta Van Fleet had come out. So he said he hadn't listened to it yet, but he was looking forward to it. So I said, "Oh, I'll play you a little clip if you want." And I played the intro to "Lay It on the Line" by Triumph. The problem is that it went like a minute and something long, so there was a copyright strike there. We played like 8 other things, but we kept them all like under 30 seconds. So we were good with everything else, but that happened to trigger it.
Huh.
But so anyway, so when all this stuff was going down with like shows being pulled off of Spotify and whatnot, I thought, well, I got to use some music that there's no way that there can be a copyright claim. So the intro and the outro are songs from demos that I recorded back in 2012. what happened was back then there's actually someone that I had dated for quite a long time who was dying from a disease called Huntington's disease.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of cull together people that I had interviewed, local musicians mostly. There were a few that I had reached out that were in the States, like Alan Tecchio, who was recently on Talking Metal. I reached out to him, and he was the only person that said, I'll do it. And I said, what do I need to pay you? He said, pay me whatever you want. And I never got around to that. I never got around to like getting it to that stage. But what ended up happening was, I'd reached out to a lot of different people, and it was funny. The over or underlying thing was, oh, each one of these songs sound completely different from one another. How or why would people listen to this? And I said, have you ever listened to an old Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath album where every song sounds completely different, like anything from the 70s, basically? Before things started getting homogenized in the 90s, every song sounded different. And it kind of helped with the whole, musical journey of the album. So, between different things, I never ended up going forward with the project, but I still have a bunch of songs that I thought were pretty cool. The intro is a song called the title of it is Death Walker, and the inspiration comes from if you ever watched the Battlestar Galactica series that came out like I don't know, like a decade ago, maybe longer. Mm-hmm. They had a spinoff called Caprica. And in that Caprica series, there were different things that I thought were interesting. They played upon having people's souls uploaded to a digital like network where they could live forever. And there were two characters that ended up dying and ended up in this digital world. And because they were pissed about being there, they went around killing like everyone that came up against them, and they call them the Death Walkers. So that's where I got inspiration for that.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody's taken that for a band name.
I'm sure they have, but yeah, I don't know. I always thought that if anything would get a copyright strike, the closest thing, the ending, is a small piece to another song. It's like the intro to before the solo part of that song. And it was interesting because it's not directly the same, but it has like the same kind of feel as like the Black Sabbath song Headless Cross. There's like a riff that's kind of similar, but it's something that kind of happened by accident. It isn't that I purposely wanted to use, that. It just fit. So so that's kind of what I use. Yeah. So I've used bits and pieces of what I thought was the best out of those demos for different pieces of music in the podcast. So I just use that. Every so often I just throw it in there. So
I like it though. Yeah, it's a good way to open things up. And I like Jeremy's comment. It is unique to what you're doing here. You should have your music. So all right. So you that stuff then, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And play drums on it, I imagine.
I programmed the drums for that. At the time when I put that together, I couldn't. So I have a program called Superior Drummer. I now have Superior Drummer 3, but Superior Drummer 2 at the time. I have an electronic drum set, which is actually behind me over there. That I connected to computer. And the problem was I was having issues with the interface between the drum set and the computer. So I originally bought the program to replace the sounds of the drum set, because Superior Drummer is what a lot of bands use to record their albums. I can tell from the cymbal sounds right off the bat. I've messed with it enough that I can hear bands put out stuff. For example, the last like 3 or 4 Overkill albums are recorded directly using this program, because the cymbal samples are are from this program. The drums, they've augmented them, because what a lot of bands do is they go into the studio, they use the program, and then they sample their own drum set, and then they use the program in combination with the cymbals to make it work. Because I've seen videos of them recording where the toms and the snare are alive, they're live per se, but the bass drums, the kick drums, are directly just triggers. They're electronic drum heads. And what this program can do is, even if you're using it, it can augment how you're playing automatically. So you have a preset so that it changes the strokes of the snare, for example, where every time you hit the snare drum, it doesn't sound the same. So it doesn't sound like a machine, unless that's what you're going for. They've really upped things with Superior Drummer 3 to where they've sampled a drum set in a studio in England and in Canada. No, what am I talking about? In England and in Sweden, and there are a few others around the world, but they've done it with like 72 mics, so that you get like a full like 5.1 mix if you want. They've done some really ridiculous stuff with the program, and it's funny because when Emily Striegel recently interviewed Jeff Tate, he talked about how, we were able to get rid of drummers a long time ago, and then now we can just record online. I was like, you fucker, you still need to have somebody, whether I program that or not. Like, I was looking for a specific feel and like, something that would be similar to what I would have played naturally on that. And then I recorded all the guitar parts and the bass after that. And then there are vocals, which I stripped away, which the idea was to have a different vocalist on each one of the tracks, because as much as I've thought for years that I've had a decent voice, I've come to learn later on that, well, maybe my voice isn't that decent. Maybe it's good for backing vocals, but not for lead vocals. So I've become comfortable with that. So I searched out different people that were going to sing on these various tracks. It sucks that it never came to fruition, but is what it is. I had kids a little bit after that, so kind of no more time to dedicate to that. So, yeah. Before I forget, I do want to say hello to Rob and to Jose, who are both in the chat as well. Besides Jeremy, thank you guys for being here week after week. I appreciate it. And I want to mention that we are now, we've been streaming to various parts of Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch since I started doing the live streams again. But we're on 13 different platforms now all over the world. And obviously somebody's going to say, well, what do you mean? Twitch and YouTube are all over the world, and so is Facebook. But I've signed up for different platforms that are popular in different parts of the world. There are certain platforms that are big in Japan, big in Russia, big in China, big in, India, stuff like that, Korea, for example, that have massive followings. So I said, hey, they're available to me. Why not sign up for them? So
that's smart.
We're yeah, if it even gets one or two more people to watch, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And it's interesting because yesterday, there's something that Jeremy posted on Twitter today about me interviewing Evo from the band Arion. Unfortunately, he couldn't do a 12 a.m. show. So I was told that I could interview him on Thursday. I interviewed him at Thursday at 6:30 my time. So it was around 12:30 on the East Coast in the U.S. and that went out live, and that'll be repackaged next week. That's a short, like 30-minute interview. I mentioned to you off air, Monday I'm interviewing Tommy Clufetis from Ozzy and Black Sabbath fame. He's obviously got the Tommy's Rock Trip, which I've posted about in Patreon, which you guys have been digging. So I'm going to talk to him about that. And next Friday, I have an interview at 7 my time with Sonia Anubis, who's the guitarist in 2 bands, one called Cobra Spell and one that's called Crypto, which I posted last week. They're a death metal band, and I know that not everyone who follows me is into that stuff. But she was also the guitarist in a band called Burning Witches. And then next week, Signals from Mars, at the regular time slot, we'll have Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show and Matt from the Classic Metal Show podcast network. They're going to be on here to talk about the platform that they've set up. They're taking over Heavy Metal TV, which Chris talked about with Mark Striegel a few weeks ago, and they've launched a new app, which is really cool for their stuff, which is my segue into asking you about the new Yarg Metal app, which is now up on Google Play.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Victor. Yeah, this is quite a big surprise. Late last night, my brother sent me just a text message, and I had a picture of the Google app. And so, because I mean, we've been kicking this around forever. I keep bugging him, and he's like, "Oh, our hands, we're just waiting to hear." And so he just sent me this picture, and I like, "Dude, is this the new app?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, is it available?" And yeah. So why are you just telling me this now? I mean,
Right.
holy crap, man. And then yeah, he's not super tech oriented anyway. So yeah, so I immediately sent that out. I'm like, can I share it with people? Can I so I started putting out there, and I thought, well, I'm going to go over to the Apple store and see if maybe the new app is there. And by golly, it is there. So not only Google, but Apple have a brand new app. And
Cool.
I encourage everybody to download it. It's free, obviously. The difference is, and I think this is because the guy, our original IT guy who went into the witness relocation or protection program, I think is with John.
That's what I was gonna say.
He had all the legal stuff to the original Yarg Metal app, which was called Yarg Metal, and because of that, we couldn't call the new app Yarg Metal, so it's called Yarg Radio. Yeah, which my wife thinks that's a total BS thing, but whatever. It's Yarg, and that's the most important thing. I don't think you're going to find companies or anything on the internet that's Yarg, other than us. Yeah, that took me forever to come up with that name, by the way. Took a hell of a lot of internet searching, trying to find something that's unique, and there you go. But yeah, so the new apps are out, and it'd be really cool if everybody here downloaded it, and especially in different parts of the world, let me know how it's working where you live, and there you go. I don't know what kind of phone you got there.
iPhone.
Okay, all right. Yeah. My brother, CEO Dave, even though he's probably, if you got everybody in this whole production here put together, he's probably worth 10 times us. He's got an iPhone, but he's too cheap to hook it up. So he's got a Google phone. That's the only thing that's an actual phone. And so yeah, so he hasn't, anyway. So yeah, so it worked. I've been listening to it all day. I had to run into Salt Lake, which is about 35 miles from here, and I had to run in there and get some things and come back, and I've been running it all day in the car. It's cool because it works with Apple CarPlay.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, like the picture, the Yarg picture comes up there as an icon in there. So I'm like, oh man, this is sweet, and it just streamed just beautifully. Didn't have any problems, and it sounded. I think the sound quality is actually a little better too. The high end seemed a little crisper to me, and which is sound quality is really important to me. I don't like. Well, it's difficult for me to listen to things that sound like crap. So,
that's a good that's a good parameter. If it sounds like crap, I won't listen to it.
Yeah. And I know I've heard Mark talk about this before, and I'm 100% agreement with him. Listen to some podcast where it's just distorted, wobbly, and I'm like, how are
Right.
you even how do you post this? How do you put this out there and expect people to listen to it?
Yeah.
And yeah. So of course, I know the very first interview I ever did was with Nigel Glockler and Paul Quinn of Saxon, and
Hmm.
it was live, and I did it. I had my little handheld thing, and we're sitting outside, and it was in Anaheim, and we're sitting behind the concert venue there, underneath this tarp at a picnic table, and I set it down, which was a big mistake. Because Nigel, man, if I got to get this on YouTube somehow. It's I got to carve it up and get it out there. But you guys should listen to it. If you go to our Facebook and you go way at the beginning of our Facebook, I think you can find an audio. But anyways,
Hmm.
he kept pounding on the table. He was very very emphatic about a lot of the stuff he was talking about.
Right.
It was a cool interview because he was very opinionated, had a lot of strong opinions about things. And but that made, this weird kind of boom sound,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't get rid of it. I went through with the editing software, and I couldn't make it sound really, really good. The speaking parts were very easy to understand, but there was just this constant, boom and noise and things like that. So I kind of learned from that. So from then on, whenever I did an interview, I would hold the recorder in my hand, and
Hmm.
that kept that kind of vibration and stuff down. And anyway, so there you go. There's some I'm not a podcaster, but I play one on TV.
Yes.
There's a lot to learn in this interview stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a Zoom H4, which it's worked great since the inception. I still use it if I need to interview someone in person. Um, and the problem that this recorder has is you have to arm it, then record. So
Yes.
there have been a lot of times where you just arm it and you forget to hit record that second time. And I've had issues where I'll be halfway through an interview. There are two that come to mind. I was interviewing the guitarist and bassist from Kitty at the BB King's in New York. And we had gone almost through the entire interview. And then I realized, I'm like, shit, I didn't hit record. So we started the interview up, and then here comes the PR guy. And the PR guy says to me, you done yet, buddy? I'm like, no, we had a little, technical issue. We've kind of worked it out. All right, you've got 2 minutes to finish. And they look at me, they're like, yeah, don't listen to him. Let's just do the entire interview again. He comes back. You done yet, buddy? Yeah, you've got like 30 seconds to finish. And they were like, yeah, we'll be done shortly. And I don't know, the whole thing was that night was kind of weird because I mentioned this to Mark because Mark knows this guy. I'll say that John Astronomy knows him a lot better because of certain connections. But so when the show was wrapping up, it was Mercedes Lander, the drummer. She says to me, because I interviewed her like a few months prior to that, and she says, "Oh, you made it to the States, blah blah blah. I'm so happy that you got to see us. Did you like the show? Like, yeah, it was great." And she said to me, "I'm kind of sick, but hang out for a little bit. We're gonna be out having beers in like 10 minutes, okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem." So I grab something to drink, and I'm waiting at the bar, and then this guy comes out. He's like, "Show's over, buddy. What are you still doing here?" I go, "Yeah, Mercedes told me to hang out. They're going to be coming out to have drinks." "Nah, nah, nah. Show's over. Get out of here." I'm like, she just said it when I spoke to her on stage. He's like, "Yeah, yeah. I don't care. Show's over. Come on, nothing to see. Just get out of here." I'm like, "You stupid little fucking prick." This guy's like all of like 5'2", and I was like, it's bullshit. A member of the band specifically told me, wait let's chat afterwards when other people aren't around. And I was like, you know, I'm here on vacation basically. I was there on my honeymoon, if I'm not mistaken. And she knew the entire story, and she was like, yeah, just hang out, blah blah blah, whatever. And I was like, what a jerk. And there was another incident where I tried to interview someone else, and similar deal with the recording. But just the interesting, that's for those of you that aren't on Patreon. I have several episodes of interviews that I did with Richie from Focus on Metal, which we deemed podcasting nightmares, where we go over, different things that have happened with label people, PR people, band people. And I done that with an old, sorry, I'm reading Jeremy's comments as we say in the UK.
Yeah. I like him and Rob are both in the same ballpark. So well done, guys.
Yes. Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to another podcaster say how they got in trouble for calling someone, as they would say in the US, the C word. And I was thinking, well, if you're in the UK and you call someone a cheeky cunt, there isn't an issue with that, because it's just like a twat, basically. A twat. It is a normal insult. It isn't as big of a deal as it is in the States, but whatever. I hope that YouTube now just does not declassify this video as a result, but I'm trying to teach some social lessons here. I'm not trying to be vulgar. But anyway.
You're fighting against your New Jersey upbringing.
Well, I was, whether I was born in New Jersey or not, there was plenty of Benny Hill when I was a kid. We were big followers of the Young Ones, which was a British series.
Oh, I love the Young Ones.
Yeah. Actually, I have.
You have a lot of Young Ones on the Yarg Metal, by the way, in between songs.
Oh, samples. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I have. Where is this? Of course, now I can't find it. Oh. Stick a pickaxe through your spinal column! That's Vivian from the Young Ones.
Yeah, Vivian.
Oh dear, oh dear.
That's I don't know the guys who he was. They were just over for a party. The witch next door was getting sick of the noise, so she sticks an umbrella through the wall, goes in the guy's ear, and he says,
"Oh dear, oh dear."
And he continues to say, "I don't quite like having blunt objects stuck forcefully into my ear." And he thinks that Neil is the one that does it, so he proceeds to beat on Neil. The last sample that I have, Young Ones related, is
"I'm very sober and very, very bored."
So, Vivian once again. I used to have a Young Ones T-shirt, and it was funny. I would go to different places, and people would see me with that T-shirt, and they would go, "Oh wow, the Young Ones! I love them." So,
all right, I like Rob kicking in there. Yeah, good stuff, guys. Yeah, absolutely. Young Ones. Yeah, just fantastic. Well, it was on. I think MTV had Young Ones on Sunday nights once upon a time in the 80s.
Yeah, they had 120 minutes, I think, before, and then it was Young Ones and the Comedy Strip Live, which was another series that Ade Edmondson and Rick Mail did. And actually, a lot of the players that were in the Young Ones appeared in that other series. They had something else that I remember Eddie Trunk criticized way back when. They had a band called Bad News, and Bad News actually came out before Spinal Tap. So it's the same type of a deal. It was a mockumentary of a band that was trying to like make it big, and they were horrible. And it was funny because the ending of the initial episode was great, because they're trying to get paid for a show that they did, and the only people that showed up to the show was some guy that was walking his dog, decided to step in, and it was one of the members' girlfriends. So the concert promoter was like, "Yeah, we're not going to pay you anything because of all the alcohol you drank, and because we only made money off of the guy, his dog, and your girlfriend. So there isn't enough to pay you guys." And then they find out that that it was actually the guy that was filming the documentary told the promoter not to pay them because he wanted to create conflict for his documentary. And then at the end, the Abe Edmondson, his character, who's Vivian in The Young Ones, he looked like Dave Mustaine in this because he had a wig that was like long red, like wavy hair, so it was like Mustaine hair. And I'll always remember, he goes to the guy, "Well, if it's conflict you're looking for, it's conflict you're gonna get." And he punches him in the stomach, and they proceed to beat this guy up. I don't know, it was funny. Let's see, Jeremy. Abe plays folk and was playing our local town once. Oh, wow. He is married to Jennifer Saunders, who went to our local school. Yes, and she appeared in The Young Ones lots of times, and obviously absolutely fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the two from Absolutely Fabulous, I think they were married to two different members of The Young Ones, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, really cool. That was a show that indirectly, had music in it as well. So it was really cool. Like, that was the first appearance that Motorhead ever made with Philip Campbell was on The Young Ones. Where they played Ace of Spades during the Bambi episode.
Yep. Best episode there is, too.
Yeah, and then there was another episode that had Madness. There was another episode that had I think The Damned. Yeah, there was another English Beat. There you go. I was another ska band. Yeah. So
the funny thing about the Motorhead, the Bambi episode when they had Motorhead on there, is when it came to the lead, is that the camera panned to the guitarist who was not playing the lead.
Right. Every time.
So they were going back and forth. It's like, oh, that guy's playing the lead. Let's go to the other guy.
Yeah.
Like,
which is what you would usually see on your like Solid Gold type shows. You're
right.
Your run of the mill like pop shows where you'd have a rock band on there every now and then, and then that's what would happen. They would show the wrong guy soloing. So
yeah, that's one of my pet peeves of any kind of rock music video thing is when they're showing the wrong thing. It's like, what the hell are you showing that guy for? Especially during a lead or something. And
right.
And if it's something that they went later, they had multi cameras and they went later and edited it and still screwed it up. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Who's in charge here? Okay, so I got to tell my quick screw up. Is sure my big recorder that I use is a Zoom as well.
Okay.
And so you hit the button once to set it to record. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hit it again to actually record.
Yes.
So the first time I did a Skype interview, this is of course after COVID, because every interview I'd done before I would do in person, and they were all like typically around a concert I would go to or something and go meet up with them before or after the show, usually before. And so and the interview was with, I'm wearing my 220 volt shirt here, so shout out to Sweden. Mats Carlson of 220 volt, super cool guy. And if you guys everybody should listen to 220 volt and all the stuff that he's doing. Anyway, he's part of our family. But anyway, he did an interview with me, and it was like I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be, awful doing this over Skype or whatever. And it was fantastic. Right. We had just a great discussion, talked about all these cool things. And then I got done and I looked down at my recorder and it says 0000000.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't hit record, and I didn't realize it till after we had disconnected and everything. So I hurried, and it's like your whole soul just died.
Yeah. I've had batteries die on me in the middle of recording as well, now that I think about it. And I've had to go back and interview the band over again That happened to me with a local band, and I said, "Look, I'm never going to get the same reaction out of you guys. The previous interview was great, so I'm changing all the questions because I want to have an authentic, reaction from you guys." So,
Yeah, and that's so interesting that along those same lines. So I sent him an email and just apologizing profusely, and I thought, oh, he's just going to be done with me.
mhm,
And he couldn't have been cooler. He's like, no, no, we can do it again. And I thought, if we did it right away, it would be weird,
mhm,
trying to do the same interview over again. So I said, no, let's wait like 3 weeks. Okay. Kind of give me a chance to
right,
think about things we didn't talk about or whatever, and do kind of like
right,
what you're talking about, come up with some different questions. And so that's what we did. And I think it came off pretty good still. I feel like we still miss the magic of the very first interview. But I still think it came off pretty good. So shout out to Matt, super good guy, great guitarist. My goodness, yeah. If you guys aren't listening to 220 Volt, check it out. They should have a new album coming out this year. He's got another project called The Summit, that's just with some of his
okay,
buddies, and they just kind of
mhm,
hang out and write more classic rock songs. And then
okay,
everybody does whatever they want to do. It's just a total fun thing. They've only got one CD out, and I've been playing a few songs from it. Very good. He just put out his first solo album. It's going to be about a year and a half now, and it's just songs he wrote that really didn't fit.
mhm,
And I love it. Great album, and he did all the vocals and stuff on it. So very cool stuff. So Mats
cool.
Carlson, two S's there for all you non-Scandinavians. So I think all us English people is like, oh, there's too many S's in there. We got to take one out.
Yeah. Well, that was I grew up with somebody with an entire family. Actually, they're all up on Facebook. Their last name is Gustafson, and I remember the one that was my age, Adam, who's a fabulous artist and a musician as well. And he would always tell us a story how his real last name, when his family came from Finland, was Isolmäki. But because no one could pronounce Isolmäki, when his grandfather got to Ellis Island, they said, no, 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 you're Gustafson.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
uh, just interesting how they had like stock last names depending on what country you came from. When
Yeah,
you got
another
off the
reason
boat.
why people hate us Americans is, yeah, we insist on everything has to be our way because we're
Well, I mean,
superior, right?
but I don't know if that's only an American thing because, for example, here in Spain, Prince Charles is not Prince Charles.
Ooh, who is he?
He's Prince
Chuck?
Carlos.
Oh, Carlos. Ah, okay. All right.
Yeah,
So yeah,
because
Espanolized him.
yeah. So there are a
Okay.
few things with that. Well, another one, and Saint James, um, in the Spanish speaking world, is not Saint James.
Amy?
He's uh, there's a famous city here in Spain where everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of tourists come to do the St. James Trail. But in Spanish, it's called Santiago.
Ah,
Is St. James. So
okay.
there's several places in the world that are called that. So let's see. Yeah, Sven Gustafsson
Cool stuff.
for physics. Yeah, Gustafsson was gone by the time I got to physics. I had a good old quirky. I don't want to get into it, but I had some interesting teachers, including one that, well, the poison stuff. The first day of chemistry, you're thinking that everything is fine, and the teacher says, "Hey, smell this," and I start coughing profusely, and he says to me, "Yeah, that's mustard gas. This is why in chemistry class you never smell something before knowing what it is."
No.
I'm like, you
Mm-mm.
ask, you knowing this and knowing how damaging mustard gas can be, how can you give me this to breathe in? So
Yeah, that's a dick
Unbelievable.
move. Dick move.
Yeah.
New Jersey, right?
Well, yeah. Well, and to further it, this guy spent more time painting stuff because his big claim to fame was, and this reminds me of the movie Step Brothers, where the character Dahl was going to take up the family business. Because my cousin just named him Mr. Stern. His father painted the original Popeye cartoons. Okay. So because his father was that, his claim to fame was that his father did that. So in the movie Step Brothers, the character Dale, his father was a doctor, and he was saying how he was going to take up the family business once his father was no longer practicing. And in a scene, they say, well, doesn't he know that he has to go to school to become a doctor? Yep. I've explained this to him a million times. He thinks that he can just become a doctor after I retire. So,
That's great stuff.
Rob brought up something interesting that has been in the news these last few weeks, which I'm glad you brought it up, Rob. Something that would be interesting to talk about. The Kiss biopic on Netflix.
Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing. It's been announced this week. There was, it was all over Blabbermouth and stuff like that. I'm guessing that after the whole Motley Crue thing, after the Dirt, we're headed for a Kiss documentary now. While we also had, we've had recent documentaries on Queen, on Elton John, so on and so forth. I know that I'm in the minority, but I got through about 5 minutes of Bohemian Rhapsody before I had to pull the ripcord and get out of there. I watched The Dirt only because it was on Netflix, but I hated almost everything about it because, okay, the night that premiered, Jimmy DeAnda, who's the drummer of the Bullet Boys, I follow him on Facebook, and his post was, watch The Dirt. I'm going to take a few days to kind of take in what I saw. But I hung out at their apartment many, many times, and it looked nothing like that opening scene of the movie. Example,
they're going to actually recreate the apartment they lived in. We got pictures we can compare, and let's.
But it was this funny, big, luxurious apartment,
I
and
see what you're saying.
There were chicks all over the place, and he goes on to say in his post, sausage fest mostly every night. So there were so many things there, and it's funny because when I interviewed John Bush for the first time, I asked him about Phil Sandoval being talked about in Dave Mustaine's book and Joey Vera being talked about in The Dirt. And John Bush said to me, well, the only thing I'll say about that is it's an interesting way to talk about events that took place. And he, basically was saying bullshit about both things that happened. I've talked to other people along the way about, the whole night that Dave Mustaine broke Phil Sandoval's leg, the whole thing with Joey Vera and Tommy Lee. Actually, the person that I spoke to about this, Bob Nalbandian, has been on my show several times, and hopefully he's going to be on sometime next month. But he's always said to me, love Motley Crue, but there's never been a band that's exaggerated more about who they are than Motley Crue. And he said something along the lines of how they build themselves up to be like superheroes, and the majority of the stuff is just far beyond being exaggerated. And he said, Tommy Lee says something along the lines of that Joey Vera was on the back of a motorcycle with him and they drove over a cliff or something like that. when they were actually in a car and like he drove into like some ditch, and there's so many things that were just kind of exaggerated there. But I don't know. I'm hoping that if they do a Kiss documentary, it's gonna be closer to the facts. I mean, if you're doing a documentary, again, it's one of the things that killed me about the Queen documentaries. 5 minutes in, there was so much bullshit in it already, where the timeline was like completely off, and just events were off, and I had already read about different things that were said, and everything was like from the time that that Freddie Mercury told them that he had AIDS was supposedly before Live Aid, when he didn't tell them until like 6 years later. Brian May and Roger Taylor being upset about Freddie Mercury releasing a solo album, when it turns out that both of them had already released several solo albums before Freddie did. So, there's just a lot of stuff there. But
yeah, I think you kind of have to take those things because they're not really documentaries; they're movies, based on these bands or whatever. So you have to figure, people are writing scripts and well, what if we change this, and what if we change this, and how about this, and because they're not really trying to accurately portray what really happened. They're trying a movie that somebody who's not a big fan of that band would still watch
Right.
it and enjoy it, kind of a thing. So I kind of think you have to look at it that way, and otherwise, if it was like a true documentary, then yeah, you definitely have to demand that things be done accurately and correctly, and nail it on there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll watch a Kiss biopic, man. I think it'd be fun, man.
Yeah.
I'm all in on that. I'll watch it. But yeah, which have you seen any of those type shows that you liked though, that were not real documentaries, but they were movies based on? I mean, I don't know how many of them have there been. Not a whole lot. I know they
No,
did
there
like
really has, but I think
series.
that also has a lot to do with the fact that, I mean, look at like the outlets that have done stuff like this in the past, like VH1, who did the Def Leppard docupic, which was like an after school special quality. That VH1 used to do so much music related content. From what I know, in the States, they do zero music content now. I think a lot of the reason why there isn't more in this genre in like hard rock and metal is because, a lot of the, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame type thing or Rolling Stone type people don't respect the genre. So you have, docu-pics on other people, like a Johnny Cash, like like I don't know. There have been plenty over the years. I prefer to just watch a regular documentary, me myself, and I can get sucked into documentary even if I don't like a band. If I'm learning about their history or different things, it doesn't matter to me if I actually like the band, so long as the documentary's done well. There's a movie called The Art of Rap, which I just watched for the historical context of it. And I got sucked in because the way that the movie was shot, it was shot in like really high definition. So there are like a lot of like scenes with like New York and LA that are just shot a certain way that it gives you like, it really gives you like a really outstanding experience, just like really ridiculously crisp experience where it's like, wow, I could just watch the footage, because it's done so well. But let's see, Jeremy's saying that he liked the Elton John one.
Yeah, my wife pulled the plug on that. About it was right at when they were at the Troubadour when he first came to America, which by the way, I've been on stage.
Oh no, we lost Brad. Oh, he's back. Let's see.
I'm back. Yeah, weird. Yeah, connection. It's because I started talking about the Troubadour.
So you were on stage at the Troubadour.
I've been on stage. Yeah. My buddy Mike Keneally, who's a guitar player, has played with Steve Vai. He's played with a lot of people. Has his own band. Oh, Frank Zappa. How can I forget that? Duh, that's how I even got to be friends with him. But anyway, he was doing a show at the Troubadour, and he had me get up in the middle of one of his songs and tell a poison control story, which was just
Oh, wow.
ridiculous. It was like a Frank Zappa-ish kind of thing to do. So it was really cool, though. I got pictures of me up on stage in the Troubadour where these guys are rocking out, and I'm telling a poison story about this woman. I believe I told the story. She was on antipsychotics, and she wanted to drink alcohol, but it said on the bottle there was a sticker that says don't drink alcohol with this. So her and her boyfriend got the idea that they could make a douche with the alcohol, and so they douched her with alcohol thinking that would accomplish the the intended process. And then of course they called me, and she did fine. So
She lived, in other words.
oh yeah, those people don't die. Those people do not die. They're like, they'll be the last people on this planet. Oh my gosh. I think the official term in the ER is Gomers, which stands for get out of my ER. And,
Oh, wow.
you can't kill those people. I mean, they can do incredible things, and it's like, yeah, that would kill most people, but you somehow, no, didn't kill you. Yeah, my favorite bizarre orifice story, though, and I'm sorry, and see, we're going to go down a poison road for a second, and this came from the Motel 6 in downtown Salt Lake City, and I've heard about this whole idea of doing a coffee enema. I learned about this from a buddy of mine who spent some time in New Zealand, and he picked up hepatitis there, which I guess
Okay.
that's a thing in New Zealand. And somebody had told him that, yeah, you need to do coffee enemas and that will improve your liver health and all this kind of crap. And of course, yeah, there's no evidence of that. But I was over at his house and he's in the kitchen. He goes, hey, check this out. And he pulled out this long tube and all this other stuff. And I go, what the hell are you doing, man? Is that like some kind of bong or something? He goes, no, I put coffee in it. And I said, well, you're smoking coffee? He goes, no, I put it in my butt. But regardless of that, yeah, nothing good happens at a Motel 6. So I get this call. These people had checked into the Motel 6 in downtown Salt Lake City, and they have the little coffee pot in the room. Ooh, that's fancy when you can make coffee in your own room.
Yep.
Welcome to America. So they got this. I don't know where they heard about doing coffee enemas. They said, hey, we should try this. The thing they didn't understand is that you got to let it cool down first.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
so this woman shoved piping hot coffee up this guy's ass. And when they called me, he was in a whole new world of pain. And so I sent him to the hospital and they were like, oh yeah, he had like 2nd-degree burns up his butt. And yeah, he was really, really messed up. So public enema number 1. I think that was number 2 actually. But yeah, I can tell things up the butt stories all night long, but we won't. We'll go back to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to go back to Motley Crue? So you guys know that I went to high school with Tommy. He was Tommy Bass back then. I think he was 2 years younger than me, and he was in the high school band. He played drums in the high school band. And at our school, I don't know, and I guess it's not this way all over the world, but in California, if you're in this high school band, you're just asking for an ass whooping. I mean, they were the most mocked, just totally tortured people on campus. And somehow he came out of that and became Tommy Lee, which is very impressive.
Right.
And I think I told the story that my buddy Ed, who was the drummer in my band, who actually sold Tommy his first drum set. We're on our way to art class, and across the lawn there, going across the square, Tommy's looking at us and he flips us off. Now, Ed, I don't know why people were afraid of him. I mean, he's kind of a big guy. I never saw him fight anybody because nobody would fight him. Everybody was terrified of him. He's a good guy to have as a friend. So Ed just walked over to him just calmly, and he had a big gulp, of Coke, 32 ounces, and he poured it right on Tommy's head. And Tommy wore it, and he just like, all right, yeah, I'm not going to say a word to you, Ed. And we just walked off. But I was also, a buddy of mine was in another band. He's a guitar player, Ralph Johnson, super great guitar player. we were getting together to play something, and he says, "Well, my amp's at this practice studio, this place that rented out space to bands so they could practice." Because I mean, I don't know what it was like when you were a kid, but you practiced wherever you could until the police came or
Right.
until somebody threw you out. So yeah, they started this thing where bands could pay and practice. So I
Yep.
went there to pick up his amp, and this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, do you have any weed?" And I'm like, "No, man, I was super straight. I mean, like crazy straight when I was a teenager." But it turned out it was Vince, because my buddy goes, "Yeah, this guy's in a band. They're actually pretty good. They're called Rock Candy." And yeah, so that was the only time I actually met Vince. But all he wanted was weed.
Wow. That's funny.
Crazy.
I asked Ernie C from Body Count about Vince because Vince is from Compton. And I
Really?
said, yeah. Well,
Oh,
that's
wow.
what it says. That's what it says in the dirt. It says that he's from
Okay.
Compton.
Oh, it must be true then.
So I asked,
You ever been to Compton?
I've driven through Compton,
Ooh.
but this is what Ernie C actually said. He says to me, "Well, Compton has gotten a bad rap over the years, but Compton still has a part of it that has $1 million houses, has some." Well, that's what he said. He said that there's
All right.
parts. He said there are
Probably
parts.
nowadays. Yeah.
Well, he said that Compton has always had a side to it that wasn't that bad,
Okay.
and that the whole town sort of got a bad rap. Compton is in L.A., Jeremy.
Yeah, it's south. If you're in downtown LA and you get on the Harbor Freeway, which used to be the 11 when I lived there, and it's 110 now, and you go south, towards Long Beach, Compton is just right there, right north of Long Beach, and it's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Ernie C was saying, because what I brought up was, I said, it's hard to believe that he was from Compton, because I would think that he would have probably, gotten his ass kicked frequently. And he said to me, he goes, "Nah," he goes, "Well, Vince," he goes, "I'm from South Central," is what he said. He says, "Compton isn't as bad as South Central." He goes, "Everyone has made a big deal out of Compton, but they still have nice houses, nice neighborhoods in certain parts." He said, "Yeah, there are parts of it that are bad." He goes, "But nothing compared to South Central."
Yeah, the
So,
worst place I've ever been in LA is Watts.
okay.
They had the big Watts riots
Right. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
in the late 60s, but that place, I mean, it looks like a war zone. I don't know what it's like now, but when I lived there, um, I mean, you drive through there and things just like bombs had gone off. It was pretty creepy. Yeah, really,
I,
really rough place.
I think every country has that, somewhere, because there are parts here in Spain that you could go to in cities where it's a similar deal, because let's be honest, most people, and I'm not talking about rich people, um, when they have enough money, move from the city, um, uh, because of everything that encompasses being in a city, living in a city. Some people love it, some people can't get out of it quick enough. So, and I guess it's same thing with the suburbs. But anyway, I thought that was interesting, and now it's funny. All these years later, they're saying, "Well, Vince is actually half Mexican." I'm like, okay. So that's why he was such a tough guy, is because he was Mexican. And I'm like, well, so because he was Mexican, automatically he was a tough guy? I don't understand. But again, a lot of this is urban legend and whatnot. And it's been built up in the press, and you're saying, something that you lived with Tommy. Is there a difference between how he was back then to maybe a coked up Tommy, or anyone else from the band who has flat out said how they've been, wasted for so many years? Memory's a hell of a thing when you're not messed up. So just imagine what it's like when you are messed up and you can't recall, certain things. I think a lot of people have come into question the whole, heroin diaries thing with
Yeah.
Nicky. He's the only functioning heroin addict to ever exist and be able to take write a daily diary down as to what took place. So
Yeah.
again, superhuman
Well,
feats.
yeah, heck, I don't know what people thought of me when I was in high school. Looking back, I think I might have been a bit of a dick. I don't know, because I thought I was a snob, man. I mean, I thought my music was the best and everything else sucked, and um, I
Right.
didn't do drugs. Anytime I go to a party, I mean, I was so like anti-drug, and somebody tried to hand me a joint. I go, no, 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 I don't smoke. And they're like, no, man, no, no, no. And then my buddy Ed, he'd be like, don't give it to him, don't give it to him. I'm warning you, don't give it to him. And they'd be like, no, no, here. And I go, okay, fine. They give it to me, and I'd throw it, and they'd be like, what? And yeah, and of course I never got an ass whooping because I was with Ed. So
Right.
so there you go. But I was like, I told you not to give it to me. He's like, why did you do that? I threw away so many pipes and everything because the people just kept trying to force it on me. I'm like, no, dude, I don't want it. If you're gonna
Yeah.
insist on me getting it, I did that at concerts too. They're like, no, don't give it to me. Don't give it to me. Yeah, I like to think I mellowed out as I got older. I mean, I don't know. I still don't smoke weed, but I wouldn't do that to somebody. I wouldn't throw their stuff away.
Yeah,
I'm a
I don't know.
mellower guy. Yeah.
I've never been, big on that scene personally. I've interviewed bands and gotten contact high and stuff like that, but I've never deliberately, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. I'm not against people doing what they want on their own. It's just that specific thing that you said has always annoyed me. No, no, you have to try it. You have to. It's like, well, if I don't want to, why should I have to? That's like somebody saying that, hey, you have to try having a ball peen hammer shoved into your ear. There's no other feeling like it.
That
Does
sounds
that
like a
mean
young one. Well, now we're back to the young ones.
there you go?
I like that. There was a scene in there where the kid was sticking his tongue in the dog's ear, and the dad goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm trying to taste his brain."
There was so much warped humor on that show. It
I
was
love
great.
that show. I love that show. I
There's
Yeah, Jeremy, am I going to be disappointed if I come to England and people aren't as funny as that? I mean, I totally expect if I go to England, it's just I'm going to be entertained nonstop.
You think there's a John Cleese on every corner?
Yeah, yeah, I love British humor. I just love the whole thing and the accent and I don't know, man. I think that the UK is cool, man. I'm in. I've never been there and I want to go so bad. And of course now yeah, no, we are all funny. Yes. Okay.
Awesome. Funny thing here in Spain, one thing that I get a lot is people will say, "Oh, you speak English," and I'll speak to them, and they're like, "Oh no, no, I don't understand you. You don't speak proper English. You speak American English. I understand England from London," and I'm like, "Okay,
Oh
you
God.
understand English from London town? Excuse me. Exactly which of the 7 accents or dialects, or excuse me, or ways of speaking that are spoken in different neighborhoods of London do you actually understand? Because if you don't understand how I'm speaking, I have a hard time that you're gonna understand someone like a Paul Diano who speaks Cockney English, who skips a lot of syllables and different letters and things like that. I've run into so many people over the years, and on the job, I was interviewing someone to be someone that was going to work alongside me in the sales department of this company that I worked in. And it was funny. I'd speak to people. And they were like, "No, no, no, I don't understand you. But if you'd speak with a British accent," and I said, "Okay, so you need to speak to people in the U.S., in the UK, in Ireland, in Australia and possibly New Zealand, are you going to get on the phone and say, "Hey, sorry, I don't understand your Wellington accent, so I can't sell you something"? You know,
Yeah.
it's just beyond ridiculous.
Which, speaking of that, Victor, I have to apologize to you. I realized, and it's maybe because I expect that Mark mispronounces everything.
Uh-huh.
That your name, and I realized this after I recorded the, thing for your Sabbath spot, is that I called you Ruiz
Hmm.
because growing up in LA, that's how you would pronounce your name in Los
Right.
Angeles, but you pronounce it Ruiz, right?
Yes. Okay. So I've never gotten bent out of shape when it comes to the pronunciation of my last name. I know a lot of people that do.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
travesty.
I've always said Ruiz. People have said Ruiz because it's kind of, them trying to say it in Spanish or in
Mhm.
English type of a combination. I had a professor in college who would say ruse. Um, and even in Spanish, depending on the country that you're in, it's
Mhm.
pronounced differently. Because
Yep.
here in Spain, I would, the way that it's said here is Ruiz, but the
Ruiz?
Z's,
Yeah, because
yeah,
yeah,
the
the
Z sounds like a
Barcelona, right?
TH in English. But in South America, for example, or Puerto Rico, or other places outside of Spain, it's pronounced more like an S. So, there's a lot of people that will
Ruiz.
say Ruiz.
Yeah.
So in English, a lot of people will say Ruiz because of that, because it sounds similar to that. Um,
Well,
yeah,
anyway,
see,
after the first time I was listening to it, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" I felt really bad, and I thought, "Oh, Victor's gonna like want to punch me." So
no,
I went
I've
back and re-recorded it, and I think I did it Ruiz. I don't know.
it it it
You
it
don't mind?
I don't care. I got into an argument with somebody from a bank once because she started telling me, "No, you're pronouncing your name wrong." I'm like, "What are you telling me?" She's like, she started like giving me like this whole like I'm a Latina and it's not pronounced that way and blah blah blah. And I said, "Well, how would you pronounce it?" And she says, "Oh, it's obvious that it's pronounced Ruiz." And I said, "Well, it's obvious that since my ancestors are from Spain and Spanish comes from Castilian Spain, it's pronounced Ruiz here. So am I going to jump down your throat because you're not pronouncing it like it is in Castilian Spanish? But yet, because I don't care, because it's not like you're calling me, asshole or something like that. You're not insulting me. Okay. You're pronouncing it differently. I don't care. There are worse things, in my opinion, to deal with, on a daily basis to get bent out of shape as to how somebody pronounces, your name. I don't know.
Victor
How many
Victor Victor Culo.
well,
Is
well,
that is
funny
that is
enough,
that the same? Is that the same in Spain as it is in where I grew up?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
it
it is the
is.
same. All right.
But okay,
Okay.
funny enough, my nephews are half Polish,
Wow.
and yeah,
That's part of being in America. Yeah.
so um, the Polish word for culo is dupa. So for the longest time, I was Uncle Dupa, and I didn't care. I thought it was funny. And then my sister-in-law says, "No, they have to put this to an end. They
Tio
cannot call
Dupa.
you Uncle Ass." And I was like, I don't, they're kids. Come on. Again, there are worse things that they can call me. And, growing up in New Jersey, and even here in Spain, being very fluent in Spain, when people speak Spanish, there are a lot of curse words thrown in. In New Jersey, there are a lot of curse words thrown in
Oh yeah.
when you speak. So calling people, insults and different things in a kind and friendly fashion,
I
it
think
depends who it's coming from and who is saying it, basically.
yeah. I think in Jersey, what you call it, ball busting,
Yes.
busting your balls. Yeah. Yeah.
Busting your balls, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like that's kind of a badge of honor if somebody's busting your balls, right? I mean, if they're
Yeah, I
feeling
mean
that
it.
comfy with you, that they'll screw with you like that. That's what I tell my students too. I say, yeah, I give them a really hard time. I say, if I'm doing that, that means you're doing well. It's if I'm
Mhm,
ignoring you, that means you're not doing well. And you know, yeah, it's like I don't want to be around somebody who's failing. Sorry.
right. No, I mean there's there I don't want to get into a political rant or anything. I think having grown up in that area, you definitely speak and say things differently, and you do. I think because New Jersey is a blue collar state, you do learn, I think, to respect people to an extent. And obviously, it all depends on your household and your upbringing and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, like
Yeah,
Rob
Rob.
is saying,
Yeah, yeah,
there's one thing where something is being insensitive and crossing the line. There's another thing where you can mess around with people without being a disrespectful prick and being insulting. And it's funny. The other day it was kind of I don't want to get into it because we'll get off on a
yeah. We've already
on a
gone well
whole
over an hour.
social political rant, and I don't want to go there with the podcast. But anyway,
Good, good
um,
enough.
respect one another. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, love everybody, man. We can all screw with each other and have fun, and but if you're doing it with love from the heart, it's all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know. I don't know. I think it's cool that we're all different, and I like finding out about people's where you're from. It's like, well, yeah, New Jersey. I'm from California. I mean, we're both Americans, kind of. Well, I don't know. What are you, Victor? Are you dual citizen now?
Dual citizen. Yeah, I was born
They
in the
they let you
States.
keep Yeah,
I
but they
I
let you
spent
keep your US citizen. You become a
as long as you pay your taxes.
Yeah, I think I'd try to get out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they one of the perks for Spain joining W in the Iraq War was that dual citizenship was allowed. So at the time, I was allowed. I was allowed to become dual citizen, so I have both. So when I fly in and out of Spain, when I go to the U.S., I fly with two passports, so
Okay.
that depending on what where I'm entering, I use one passport or the other. The biggest issue, obviously, post 9/11, everything changed. But with my wife, most of the time they make us get in line with all the non-U.S. citizens, and I'm like, well, I am a U.S. citizen. We're married. Blah blah blah. No, you can't. It's not the same last name. All right, whatever. So my kids have dual citizenship as well, but Jeremy, you're fucking with us because this is okay.
That's what I was thinking too. I think Jeremy's screwing around because, well, yeah, save your
Yeah.
chest.
So here's the thing. Jeremy has corrected me a few times with pronouncing things how they would be pronounced in the UK. It's funny because, and actually Richie from Focus on Metal, we talk about this all the time too. There's a place up in Massachusetts that's close to him that is Worcester.
Worcester. Yeah, Worcester.
Yeah, but it's spelled Worcester. Okay, there's a very famous, and it's been part of the debate this week with a bunch of football, aka Ricky Warwick. But it's funny because I've heard him interviewed and I've heard him say Ricky Warwick. So it's weird, but they do that here in Spain, where you have somebody like Antonio Banderas, or as my brother likes to affectionately say, Tony Flags. Um, he Warwick, okay. He will change the way that he pronounces things depends on who's interviewing him. If he's in the south of Spain where he's from, he speaks as if he's from the south. If he's anywhere else in Spain, all of his accents are gone. So it's similar to what they call in the States the Ohio accent, which apparently is devoid of any like inclination of being from one place or the other. But what I was trying to get at, there's a soccer team for those of you in the States, a football club for those in the UK, which is pronounced Leicester. I have been pronouncing it Leicestershire or Leicestershire for decades until, Leicester Country is going to win the premiership. Leicester Country? Who the hell are they? I never heard of them. And then I look at, the standings. I'm like, oh, that's Leicester or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so you're a dope. You've been pronouncing it wrong for all these years. So, Jeremy, I'm going to take a stab at this. You say that you're you're Sershin from the city of Chester. I had a Chester close to where I lived, where I grew up, a Chester, New Jersey. But much like you're correcting me with Wiki Warwick, I was about to say, Ricky Warwick, how would you pronounce where you're from and what you're saying you are? I want to learn this evening. I want to see if he breaks. Okay.
Sestrian. Sestrian.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, that's just me fumbling over words. Is Chester pronounced the same, or would you pronounce that differently?
Wow. I don't know. Or is that one of the is there a C letter in the
Sestrian? Okay. Jeremy's throwing his fist in the air at the other end. It's like this, damn it.
Okay. Now wait a second. Okay, so Jeremy, the first time we did the Talking Metal get together, and who's the guy from Scotland?
That's the mailman.
Why can't I think of his name? And I'm like, I have no idea what he's saying, not a clue, and it was just brilliant. And I'm thinking, I wonder if Jeremy can understand him.
Well, Jeremy lives in Manchester, if I'm not mistaken, or fairly close. And some followers of his football club of Manchester City are the Gallagher brothers, or the Gallagher brothers of Oasis.
Those Gallaghers. I was
those
thinking,
Gallagher, wrong
Raven.
ones.
Okay.
But they use subtitles when they speak. No one can understand. Okay, there you go. But it's funny that he says that because I've seen plenty of like documentaries over the year from the BBC and different things where they're, where they have from people from Scotland or from the Highlands who they have to place subtitles in the documentary because within the UK they don't understand them. So this gets back to pronunciation. When I worked in the States, and going back to the whole UK connection, the town that I grew up in was called Dover. So obviously the name comes from the White Cliffs of Dover, or the town of Dover. There was actually this real like shitty apartment complex in my town that was called the White Cliffs of Dover.
Class it up.
Yes. There was at least one apartment on fire a month there. I don't know how they could manage that, but
was there a White Castle of Dover?
No, there wasn't. White Castle was not widely spread up until I moved to Spain. Because I remember the only White Castle that we would encounter was on the way to JFK Airport, which was someplace in Queens, was this White Castle. And then all of a sudden they started sprouting up everywhere. I've never eaten at a White Castle. I've eaten at an In-N-Out, but I've never eaten at a White Castle.
Well, those are good burgers, eh?
In-N-Outs are great.
Yeah. I've never eaten a White Castle either. So if somebody, we need to hook up. Is Jose still here? Did Jose go bye? Or is he just being quiet?
He was having trouble with his connection before.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying
like
to figure out
Brad-
who's going to be the first person here I actually meet in person.
We're gonna have a pool.
Now Rob is obviously a South Sider because he's a Sox guy, and I love that. I'm a big Sox fan. Actually, got to go to the World Series in 2005. Rob.
He's driving.
Okay. He's driving. Good boy. Yeah, no texting and driving. Where do you live, Jose? You probably can't tell us. You're driving, or where are you driving?
He's in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Yeah, that's where the CEO of Yarg Metal lives in Connecticut. Lives near Torrington. Okay, Roger. Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's a funny thing, and it was. I have people say to me, "Where should I go to eat?" You know, when they're in Spain, when they're here. I had a cousin say this to me a few years ago, and I said, "Well, to be honest with you, given that I have a Spanish chef at home, aka my wife, we don't tend to go out for Spanish food. We tend to go to, fast American fast food. So things that in the States are considered crap, for example, that some people would say, like a Fridays or like even a Dunkin' Donuts or a Taco Bell or what else is here? Well, obviously McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, stuff like that. So as crappy as that food is, it's hard to come by. Except Burger King and McDonald's are everywhere. But the other chains are not. We didn't have KFC up until 2 years ago, and now we have 2.
Which I'm for all Americans, I'm going to apologize for that. I can't eat that stuff, man. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Every time I eat it, I'm like, oh, guy, why did I just eat that? I don't know what they do to their chicken, but it's like the worst thing ever. It's kind of like Popeyes. I mean, it tastes good when you're eating it, and then afterwards you're like, why did I eat that? That's
Taco Bell, same thing. Taco Bell. I used to love Taco Bell, but it was one of these things where it would always have to be a drive-through pickup because it would have to be close to home.
Yeah. All right, so Rob, just to answer Rob's question, it was game 2. It was the Sunday game, the walk off with Posednik. Now we're back to Polish. I think he hit the walk off, which you didn't expect that. That was such an awesome game, awesome series too. Rob, where are you living now? You're not in Chicago now, right?
He's in Missouri. You said
he's in Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's trying to seeking out tornadoes. Okay, yeah, Texas. I love Texas, by the way. I don't know that I want to live there, but I love visiting. That's the more metal people in Texas. Now we're bringing it back to metal. Okay, I love going to San Antonio for concerts because the metal fans there are just it's the best. Every time Saxon comes to the U.S., I always make a trip to Texas to see him because then you get to see him play on a big stage with crazy fans, and they do like 2 hours, and it's just. Yeah, it's the best. So there you go. Shout out to Texas. Nobody hears from Texas. Yeah, Missouri. Okay. Yeah, I saw Saxon in St. Louis when they were doing that. When they were warming up for Judas Priest, they did some offshoots of the tour, headlining club deals, and I flew out to see him in St. Louis so I could see him do a headlining show. And Black Star Riders were warming up, so you got extra songs from both of them, and it was it was great.
Yeah,
I'm just going to concerts.
Saxon is the accidental band. I've seen them more times accidentally than any other band. I've seen them open for Priest. I've seen them at 2 separate festivals, and I'll always tell this story. I got to see Dio on his last solo tour. Kiss came on after. And after Kiss was done, Saxon came on. And I like Saxon, but I've never been a huge fan. I've always been more of a casual fan, and we decided that the bus lines were so long to get back from the festival to our car that we were going to walk from the festival to where we parked. Little did we know we wouldn't get to our car till 7 a.m. because we were actually like 10 miles away from where we parked. I had,
Wow.
I didn't realize we were that far away. But anyway, few train trips later, we got there. Anyway, but as we were walking past the bus line, Biff Byford says, "Only in Spain can we go on and start our show at 3:45 in the morning."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Good times though.
absolutely.
Yeah. First time I saw Saxon at the Whiskey in
Oh, wow.
1982.
Hmm.
The warm-up band was a band I'd never heard of before called Metallica.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
they were
that,
a bunch of pimply-faced teenagers, and I thought these guys just want to be Iron Maiden, playing everything really fast and they all had the badges on, back then in the early, 80s, kind of the new wave thing, where you had badges and all this kind of stuff, and it kind of went into metal too, and so they were wearing all those things on their straps and all that.
right.
And who I had no idea. I didn't look at them going, "Holy crap, these guys are so good." I just looked at them going, come on, get Saxon on. But
Well,
Saxon, never been disappointed at a Saxon show. Me, I've never seen a bad show by them.
um, that was Metallica's first show.
Their first show? No way.
Yeah, James didn't play guitar, right?
I believe you are correct. Yeah, it was McGovney
That
because
was
that was before Cliff.
Metallica's.
And
That was Metallica's first show ever. And during
wow.
that show, James goes behind the speakers behind behind Dave Mustaine's speaker several times to throw up
Okay.
because he was so nervous.
Oh wow. I bet.
Another person that was at that show, Gene Hoglan, who has played in
I've met Gene.
Gene was
He
at
played in
that show.
Death Clock. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Yeah,
Bob Nalbandian, who
my
I
buddy Mike Keneally played in Death Clock. Yeah, him and Brian Beller, good buddies of mine.
oh wow,
Brian Beller of New Jersey, famous bass player.
oh cool,
Yeah.
yeah. And Bob, who I mentioned before, Bob Nalbandian was at that show as well. Gene Hoglan, when I interviewed him, he told me a great James Hetfield story, and it's possibly the greatest story that was ever shared with me on out of anyone, because the story is just so ridiculous. When Gene was in Fear Factory, they opened up for Metallica. James, and he said Lars for that matter, both of their memories are shot for a certain time period. They just don't remember anything. So Gene told James Hetfield a story about them meeting back in 79. And he said that this story garnered going out with James Hetfield and getting many a steak dinner as a result. He mentioned that that he went to a backyard party in California with his sister. His sister was a few years older than him, and Gene was, I think, 13 or something like that, and his sister was 17. So he shows up and he sees this guy with this. It was the cover of the first Iron Maiden album, a T-shirt, but it was all white. And at the time, no one knew who Iron Maiden was. Gene knew who Iron Maiden was because he collected a lot of like overseas things and whatnot. And so he went up to me. He's like, "Oh wow, you like Iron Maiden?" And he was like, James was just so uninterested. He didn't want this kid coming up to him and pestering him and like messing up whatever he had going on. So he was like, "You're into Iron Maiden." He's like, "Where'd you get that shirt?" He's like, "I made it." And he says, "Oh wow, can you make me one?" He's like, "No, why would I make you one? Then somebody else would have my shirt." And he says, "Okay, I'll buy it off of you then." And he says he took out the money in his pocket. He goes, I've got $5. I'll give you $5 for the shirt. And he said, back in the 70s, he goes, a concert t-shirt went for like $5 to $8. He said, so, he wasn't asking anything out of the ordinary. So he went, James said no. He was like, beat it, kid, leave me alone. I'm trying to, drink some beer over here or whatever. And he went to find his sister. And he finds his sister and he says to her, give me all your money. He's like, why? He's like, this guy has an Iron Maiden t-shirt and I have to have it. So he gets together like $23. He goes back to James. He says, I'll give you $23 for the t-shirt. Please give this to me, or give me your shirt. Sell it to me. He's like, leave me alone, kid. I don't want to, I don't want to sell you my shirt, And he said that they went back and forth until, he just no longer saw James. And, a few years later, that was what, 82, you said the show?
Yeah, it was 1982. It was in the...
So 3 years later, he's like, that's that guy that had that Iron Maiden t-shirt. He's up on stage. Who's this? And he said, before he went to the show, he's a similar deal. He's like, I don't want to see this Metallica band. I want to see Saxon, and then he told James, he's like, wow, then I saw you on stage. He told him the story, and then he said how, next time he saw him was on stage opening for Saxon. And James was like, dude, I don't remember it, but based on how you're describing what I did, how I treated you, he's like, yeah, that was me. So it's great. I mean, obviously it's better when Gene Hoglan is telling the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Gene's a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene's great.
Very nice guy. Great drummer. Yeah.
I spoke to Gene for, it was 5.5 hours one day.
Wow.
He was great. He had to go to a band meeting. He's like, I'll call you back in a few hours. And we just kept talking.
Yeah. I think all the, I've gone and seen them a few times. Well, when it was Death Clock, the Death Clock shows.
Right.
And so I would go backstage afterward and hang out, and never really, I mean, Gene was wiped. I mean, as you can imagine, playing that stuff for, an hour plus. And so he's like in none of my pictures. Every time I saw him, he's just sitting on a sofa, just with a beverage going, oh.
But you know why? I have his first Atomic Clock DVD where it's a drum instructional. He wears weights on his feet to play.
Oh, really?
He wears weights on his feet. He wears boots. Okay. He uses old Camco drum pedals from back in the 80s.
Wow.
And he tends to always want to play the hardest song last, because most of the times when you're playing, live, you tend, especially for a drummer, you want your hardest song to be within the first quarter of your set, because that's when you've got the most energy and you can pull it off. Gene wears the weights until the last song, takes the weights off, so he's able to fly through it, basically.
Wow.
So
that's great. That's great stuff.
He's spent at the end of a show because of that. So,
well, anyway, he's a good dude and a great drummer.
Yeah.
And
ridiculous drummer. He's
good stuff.
He's played with a lot of great.
So who are you interviewing again next week?
Okay, so I've got Tommy Clufetis on Monday.
Wow, another great drummer.
Yep. Sonia Anubis, guitarist on Friday.
Cool.
And then Chris Aiken and Matt from the Classic Metal Show podcast network. So I'm gonna have it's gonna be a nice and booked week for me. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoy the outcome of those episodes. I think that all of the interviews will be live, except for I'm not sure how I'll be able to pull the Tommy episode off, or the Tommy interview off, only because I'm using Zoom for the first time, like I mentioned to you off air. I know that there's a way to connect Zoom to this, so I may be able to live stream, but whether I am or not, it'll still be released at, as part of a podcast. So if you don't get to see the video, it'll definitely be released in an audio format.
I'm looking forward to all of that. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm hoping my next interview will be with Mark Lanou of Fiction Six. And if you don't know
Okay.
about those guys, Six is SYXX.
Right.
And yeah, the musicianship in their stuff is just fantastic. He gave me some songs from the upcoming album that's coming out, and I'm playing it. He's part of our Sabbath thing. So if you listen to Yarg Metal with the new app, and you hear his song, and afterward I play a song from their new album, and so far
Cool.
very very impressed. And so looking forward to chatting with him, and so watch all of our stuff, and who knows? Maybe it'll be fun to talk to him. I hope so.
Cool. Any idea of what the C band is going to be?
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable announcing that now. And I made the decision to do Alice Cooper. I'm
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that's like Apple Music. I think they would put him under A. I don't know, but I put him under C for Cooper.
Sure.
And I thought that he was had a big enough catalog, and probably everybody's got a favorite Alice Cooper song, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's fine too. But I'm hoping that anybody wants to join in. Rob, I know you're busy, and I know you got a lot of stuff going on in your life and all that, and I'm thinking about you. Hope everything's going well with you and your family and friends. But I'm hoping Rob will join in. So be thinking about that, Rob. It's easy to do. You sit down, you knock out a 1 minute explanation of why you picked the song, or if you're Mats Carlson at 220 volt, you just say, I picked Hole in the Sky. There it is. Personally, I love listening to why people pick the songs that they pick. I mean, some of them are just so heartfelt and so cool, and I'm like, I don't know. Music is so personal to me. I love it when people are attached to a certain song or something. So I like it when people do explain that. And Victor, and I love your picks, Victor. You're fantastic. And I mean, Jeremy, holy crap, Jeremy could be his own thing. Have you heard Jeremy's intro to his song?
I haven't. I have to.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be doing block. I might be running a block tonight. So maybe when you guys get up in the morning, I don't know, watch Twitter, because I'll be tweeting it out what time I'll be doing it. Greenwich Median Time or whatever it is. But yeah, you got to hear Jeremy's intro to his song, because it was so fantastic. Anyway, great job, Jeremy. And I love having you part of our group.
Yeah, I have to. What was great the last time is that you told me when you were doing all of the AC/DC songs back to back, so I was able to catch that and hear everyone's picks.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do now with the Black Sabbath stuff. I'm going to call it the block, and I'm going to run everybody's picks back to back with everybody's intros. So I'm going to hopefully set that up tonight. It's the hard thing is figuring out like what order I want to go in. Do I want to try to be chronological? Do I want to just break up the Dio and Ozzy stuff and sprinkle in other things? And I think that's probably what I'm going to do, is I'm going to mix it up a bit. So listen and see. I'll sort it out, but there's a lot of songs.
Yeah. Were there any clowns that picked any Tony Martin songs?
Yeah, there's 3 clowns actually. You're the head clown. You are the head clown. Which I was hoping somebody would do that. And then I picked one, and then my brother picked one as our, because my brother being the boss, he says, well, I want a second choice too. I want multiple choices. I'm like, how can you say no to the boss, right? The guy who's paying the bills. So I'm like, yeah, you can have as many picks as you want. I mean, let's face it, when this station started, all you played was Black Sabbath. So I mean, I think we're kind of heading that direction again. So he got a second pick, and then I snuck in there with a third pick, and I picked a Tony Martin song, and he didn't know that, and he picked a Tony Martin song, and we both picked it off the same album. So they're out there. If you're listening to the station, I play the Black Sabbath stuff right now. About every 10 songs, there's going to be a Band of the Week song, and so you have to listen. but they're all really, really cool, and we got some very cool people participating in this. I'm hoping, and if anybody out there knows anybody who was in Alice's band at one point or anything, or anybody that's cool, let me know. I want to hit people. I'm trying to hit people up who've actually been in Alice's band to jump in on that one.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping I can get some of those people to participate, because I think it'd be kind of cool to hear from somebody who actually played with the guy, and it's like, this is the song that really did it for me.
Right. I will say that as we're talking, I already have my Alice pick. So
Good.
and
Good.
and again, it is something that I'm sure a lot of people will not expect. So
That's what we like, man. That's fantastic. Yeah, I was just waiting for some ass clown to pick Paranoid or Iron Man, and no, nobody did that. So that's the
that's
group
awesome.
we have. I mean, we have pretty much true music fans,
Yeah.
true. I mean, musicians who are passionate about it. It's not like, oh well, yeah. So we got a good group, and of course, I'm always trying to expand it. Um, who knows, man? Who knows where this will go?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Uh, so
Cool.
I appreciate you participating, Victor, and
Absolutely.
yeah, you bring a lot to the party. Let's just put it that way. So
Well,
you're
I appreciate that.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, that just, you blew me out of the water when you picked that. I was like, so I can't wait to play this. I just can't wait to play this for people. And my brother freaked out. He's just like, oh, I love that song. And I really like that album too.
Yeah.
The last time I saw, well, let's see, well, it was Cozy Powell's last show with Black Sabbath was in Los
Mm,
Angeles, and on that tour, on the Forbidden tour, and they played, I think, 2 songs off of Forbidden. But
okay.
yeah, and I love Cozy Powell. That's a whole nother show. So
Yeah, he's
talk about favorite drummers.
definitely a big influence for me from a drummer standpoint. So I'm right there with you.
All right, we'll save that topic for another day. We
Yes.
should talk about our favorite drummers.
There you go. That's the
Okay, there you
topic
go.
for another episode. Now I want to do something similar to what was done with that talking metal, like kind of roundtable. I'd like to do something like that one of these weeks, or maybe once a month, where there's like a big summit where we kind of get everyone who's even in the chat, we get everyone on board, and we all like pick a subject like that and just talk about things. So
Let's do it.
yeah, let's
I'm
do
in.
it this week. So
Yeah, this right here. This what you're doing right here is so dang cool. And everybody in the chat room, I love reading everybody's comments. I mean, these are true music fans.
yeah,
It's I mean, I wish we could all just be hanging out in a room talking together someday, right?
yeah. Well,
At
this is our
Victor's house
yeah. This
with
is
the
our
rats.
with what?
The rats, or you still having a rat issue, or you gonna
Holy
get a cat?
well, um all I will say is that last night at 2 something in the morning, I was wrapping up, about to go to bed, and one of my security alarms went off. I purposely put security cameras in my attic because of them. And lo and behold, I see these 2 shiny eyes coming towards the camera. I'm like, oh, great. They're back.
Oh,
So
no.
it is going to be a fun this weekend. There's 20 traps up there. So it usually
Glue traps are the best, by the way. I
well,
don't know if
I
they
have
have those in Spain.
yeah, they have them.
Okay.
I use an old technique that I learned in New Jersey, which is using peanut butter in regular traps.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
reason that the peanut butter, and it was funny the first time that I was told this, I laughed. I'm like, "Ah, what the hell is peanut butter going to do?" Like, no,
Oh,
they
yeah.
like the smell and it's sticky, so they have to work at it.
Yep.
And lo and behold, first time I used it, I was out in the swamps of New Jersey working at a job site. And both of the rats that I got, head to tail, were probably over 2 feet long.
Whoo. Wow. Ratones. Is that
Yes.
what you call
No.
them in Spain?
Ratones or mice?
Ratones are mice. Okay, what?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you call rats?
Ratas.
Ratas. Okay, all right.
So
I learned my
there-
Spanish from my amigos at the salvage yard I worked at when I was 18, and those guys spoke no English, and so I learned Spanish from them. They were all Mexicans, and anytime somebody showed up there with a tie, those guys would all disappear because they thought it was somebody from the government. And so it
Right.
would just left me, this hillbilly guy, and this black guy. We were the only ones left to do all the work. We're like, holy crap! It's
Right.
going to be like 2 hours before those guys come back.
Right.
Great
Yeah.
guys. I love those guys, man. So much fun. Good
Yeah.
times. Stories for another day. Ratones or mice. Okay.
There you
Good
go.
to know. See, and I gotta learn. I gotta brush up on my Spanish too.
You got to. I've been doing. And we'll wrap it up with this because this is very exciting for people, I'm sure, to learn. But I've been brushing up on my German. I took German in high school, and I, for whatever reason, due to bouts of insomnia, I started taking Duolingo lessons in German. So
All right.
that's what
Auf
that way.
Wiedersehen.
Yes, even, or you can say "choose," which is the
Okay.
colloquial way of saying it.
Okay.
So
All right.
there you
Yeah,
go.
Rob, I think Vegas would be a great place for us all to meet up. I love Vegas, so I can probably get us hooked up somewhere there.
There you
Get us
go.
comp. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Vegas. Party on, man.
Awesome.
Let's wherever. Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you again, Victor, for having me. I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
you guys, everybody here's the best, man.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us for this supersized episode with Brad this week. Everyone loves having you on. Everyone always,
you.
sends me messages. When's Brad come back? When's Brad come back? So everyone loves having you on as well. And I've heard from other people outside of the chat who listen back to these episodes and often tell me, who's this Brad guy? You always have such great conversations with him. So
well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's
Yeah.
always fun for me to hang out with cool people, and that's what you guys are. And everybody listen to the Yarg Metal app, and I want to hear your opinion of what you think about not only the app but what I'm playing. If you have any comments, you can of course find Yarg Metal on Twitter, Facebook, now on Instagram. I just started an Instagram page.
Woo-hoo.
And yeah, I've got like 5 followers. I think Victor's one of them, and Victor's 2 of them actually. So
Probably.
yeah, follow me there. I'm trying to build up an audience there. And or you can email me at yargmetal1 because yargmetal1 at gmail.com. Yargmetal at gmail.com is my brother. And yeah, no, don't do that.
You're giving out all the family secrets.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good, man. So yeah, so rock on, everybody. And listen up for the watch Twitter, because that's where I will announce what time I'm going to do the Black Sabbath blocks, which will be every song that was picked by all of our I don't know what's a good word for our group. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's
Where does Yarg Metal come from?
Oh, Yarg Metal?
Yeah. Where does the word Yarg come from?
Yarg is actually a friend of my son's, who every time, and he's kind of an oddball, and I think this goes back to that Brad Pitt character in that Snatch movie or whatever, who would just speak gibberish, and he would that was kind of like a swear word for him. Every time something bad would happen, he goes "Yarg," and so I was going, all right, it's not a real word, and I don't even know if that's really what you're saying, but I'm stealing it, and I'm going to name the radio station that. So
I don't know. You got to come up with a with a name for the followers, the Yargers. I don't know, the Yargernauts.
Yargernauts. Yeah, that's yeah. We had a woman who worked with us for just a little while. They actually did one interview for us, and I called her the Yarg Maiden. I thought that was pretty clever, but she kind of went her way or whatever. She's a cool person, but yeah, so I don't know. I need a new Yarg Maiden. We need to get some women involved. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of women that like our music.
Yeah. Break up the sausage fest.
Cheers, everybody.
All right, guys.
I love
Thanks. once
sausage, by the way.
Thanks, guys, for watching this live. And for those of you that are watching the replay or listening to the replay, thank you guys as well. Remember, Signals from Mars is on every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. in the UK, midnight and continental European time zone. There you go. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast. This time for real. Oh, can I get it in? There you go, in frame. See you guys.